Hello, everyone. This is Mighty Scon here with a new episode of Feed the Beast Revelation. We are on episode 45 now, almost to 50, so we're getting there. It's been a little while since I've actually played, or actually made a video. I've been playing this game for the most part, kind of letting it run and building stuff, which I will show you here in a moment. But I've been working on a lot of different parts of the base, mostly building, and stuff that I think it would probably be boring on camera, just trying to work out some of the components of the base. So I can show you those areas now. I do have places linked up to this room here. So I have this central hub, which is a new place I've built. I better star this so I know what's my main location, I guess, to go to. And I do have this. This is my entrance receiver. So if I need to come back up to this part of the base, then I go here. Otherwise, I will go straight to the central hub from here. And of course, I can always use my teleporter here. So I'll probably just use this mostly while we're going from place to place. So I don't have anything new on this part, I don't think, other than making a lot of glass. Because the base that I'm building is going to be modeled after the Institute, which I think I've mentioned before in Fallout 4. And I don't know if it's in other Fallout versions. I think it's mostly in Fallout 4. And I need some. Let me get this going real quick. I need to get some lava from here into this. My glass production has stopped. So I've been making a lot of this clear glass, which is actually pretty neat looking, and I'll show it off here in a second. Let's get some ducks, the hardened ducks. It's not garden, hardened. And just need one of these and a servo. Doesn't matter which one I get. Alright, so this should take care of this for a while. And this redstone clock is a extra utilities 2 block that you can put over these faucets, and it will just continuously send a redstone signal. Whenever it pulses around, it'll automatically send a redstone signal out. So one full rotation is one redstone signal. So it's a pretty good timer. It's a basic timer. You can actually put the timer from RF tools as well. Just a quick tip. You can actually put the timer as well from this mod. This one right here. Or the sequencer too. Which I typically use a sequencer over the timer because you can do a little more control with this one. But you can time it out because it pours out the same amount of time no matter what block it is. And so this is what I've been spending a decent amount of time off camera doing. And if we move over to, let's go to the central hub now. This is the central hub. This is actually a big circle. I'm going to turn my night vision on. This is a big cylinder. And this place will be filled with stuff. More decoration than anything functional. I'm going to have the functional stuff kind of off to the sides. This goes nowhere. This goes down outside, or I guess underground, but outside. And this goes to the thing we're going to talk about today in this video. And then this goes even further. I've been digging a lot. This is all underground. We're at Y level 49, 50. So at Y level 50, we're all the way down to bedrock. And if I go down here, So I built this using the builder from RF Tools, and it's pretty easy to build. You just spend a lot of resources making this laboratory block, and I'd use this ethic quartz stairs because if you look at stairs, there aren't many stairs that actually are just solid white. They all have interesting like designs, or they're off-white. Like this quartz stairs is like kind of like a pinkish color to it, and so I'm still trying to find a good white stair. But all the wood stairs have the wood design, so it's kind of hard to build with that. I did think about making the secret stairs, but I'm a little concerned about that. Is there secret stairs? I don't know, I'm still trying to figure out, yeah, here's the secret stairs here. So you can make stairs out of this, and you can kind of texture them whatever you want from that point on. So I might do that to see how it looks, but I'm a little concerned about that secret mod because there is some, in the past there have been some tick issues which may have been fixed, and I'm still running on version 1.3. I know we're on 1.6 now, but this is still 1.3, so some of the stuff that's been updated I haven't had a chance to play with, because I'm a little concerned that if I do switch over, I have had problems where it crashed continuously, especially with 1.4 and 1.5. But now we're at 1.6. I'm going to download that and test it out today. So anyways, this is kind of the design I'm going to go for. I do have these grass blocks, and these are just regular leaves. I might go with jungle leaves. I like the coloring better with jungle leaves. And it matches these bushes. These are Natura bushes, so they're kind of functional. I can get berries off of them. If I was hungry, I can eat them. But they also will grow up to about 3 high. And I can make the different kinds. There are 4 different kinds. Mallows, raspberries. I'm going to get some blueberries over there. And I'm going to get some... that's kind of weird. I think I misplaced these. Be right here. Yeah. Should be right in the middle here. Well, I'll fix that later. But there's also blueberries as well. So I'm gonna get those and put them in the corners, and it'll be kind of greenish in here. Then I'll fill out the inside of this. The main parts of the base I'm going to be at will be functional, and everything else will be hidden. That's not really like functional. It's just more. Or I'm sorry, the main parts of the base will be design. So this will be a design level here, where it's just going to be more visually pleasing. This will be able to access the functional stuff using this, and then everything that's functional will be up here, kind of out of the way. So this is kind of the functional part of it, and so I probably won't go up there very much. Only when I need to make some changes to the network. And so my plan is to actually have this central part right here go all the way to the surface. Go straight up to the surface in an elevator. And I can just teleport down here if I needed to, but I'll have these maybe 9 blocks here. Just be able to go straight up to the surface, and it'll be kind of an elevator to the real world. And I'll probably have this go to another room. I'm gonna have 4 different rooms. One down here, one this way, and then one this way, and then actually my other room will be this here, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. This will be what the main part of this episode will be about, and it's going to be on NuclearCraft, kind of the max level fission reactor we can build. and I want to show you some of the capabilities of it. And I'm still far, far away from filling this thing up with the proper resources, but I will show you with what I have already and what we can do to make things a little bit better in there. So we'll talk about that here in a few minutes. As far as other updates go, for the most part, this main area here is done, kind of the entranceway, and then the 3 rooms off the main corridor, they're pretty much done. I'm still going to fool with this right here and probably expand it and kind of make it just parallel to this here. Make a big room with mobs in it. That's kind of the next phase of this area here. That's pretty much it for the updates. We will get on to the main episode now. Alright, so in this episode we're going to look at some the maxed level that we can build fission reactor. And so if we go, we have this reactor door here. I can open it up, and I do have a teleporter to get in here. You can put blocks in here, but so far I have this set up for a bunch of reactor cells, and I also have the lapis coolers here as well. This is the beginning of the reactor that I'm going to build, and it's designed for TBU cells right now, but we are going to work towards maybe designing this for other cells, which is going to take a lot more coolers. But already I have spent all my tough. So to make a cooler, it requires tough alloy, which requires ferroboron, which is steel and boron, and then lithium. So I need a lot of steel, which is iron and graphite, and then so we have iron, graphite, boron, and lithium. And graphite comes from charcoal, so you can make it out of charcoal. It's not that hard to make. So with that in mind, this is going to be a big design, but I do want to show you, like right now, what it can do. Let's go down here. So I do have the same setup, just a little more compact actually than what I had up in the other room. But this is the max level. So each wall is 625 blocks. And we have 6 walls here. If we look at the total size of this thing, from open end to open end, it's actually 27 on the outside, but the inside is actually 25 by 25 by 25. So it's a 25 block cube inside of this thing. A good way to scale this up, what I would do is I would actually make this way. I would just take I would make it 25 by 25 on this axis, and then I would just go up like maybe 3 or 4 blocks and make your 25 by 25 top. So the bottom's going to be 25 by 25, and the height will only be 3 or 4 blocks high. Then you'll have a 25 by 25 top. So you only really need 625 blocks on the bottom, then 625 on top. So that's 1250 blocks. And also for each level you go up, it's going to be 100 blocks. Because you have 25 here, times 4 for each side on this plane. We'll have 25 here. That's 25 plus 25 plus 25 on that side, and 25 on the front. That's 100 blocks. So to start off with, I mean, you could even make this, I would say 3 blocks high at the minimum. That's 300 blocks. Plus the 1250 blocks for the top and bottom. Then you could just grow out to a level that you want to grow out to. So I could have just spent about 1,850 blocks. I couldn't have made a door, but I could have just still spent 1,850 blocks to get the same amount of power and production from the current amount of cells I have inside of this. Now the only downside is that you're losing out on the amount of heat this thing can hold. So the max level that you have here is going to give you this heat level. And I did put in a new oxide in here, which is HEA, which is americanium. And as you can see, it's producing 1.4 million RF per tick. The heat, though, is 2.6 million heat per tick. That's a lot. It's after the heat reduction inside of this thing. So these HEA fuel cells, which if I look up HEA dash, it's going to be this oxide version. It produces a base power of 1075.2 RF per tick, and then the heat is 705. So this is like one of the higher end fuels you can use. So there are better ones than this, but the heat is going to be pretty high. If I power this on, we get a really high jump here, and it's going to stop based on what we selected here. So I put it at 9, threshold of 9, which is fine. It's going to get to that point and it's going to stop. And because we have such a high, I guess, heat level, because this thing is a maximum level, it's the maximum size you can put in this thing. We can put in these high-end fuels with a large amount of cells. Typically, you would put less cells in here, and you'd get less RF per tick out of it, but your heat would actually go down as well. So if you, the benefit of having these larger reactors is you can, walk into them first of all while they're running, but you can also adjust. You can say, I want to remove some cells. Let's get rid of this here too, and let's just go down to a few rows of cells. Right? The cooler is going to go down too because it requires a cell to touch one of these to activate, so the cooler is going to go down as well. But we're not going to get as high of a spike. Now if we look at this thing, see it went down to 1.2. The heat also went down as well. So, and the efficiency also went down as well. So you're not going to get as long of a life out of this as well, because efficiency went down. That's mostly because it took the graphite block out of it. This will boost up the efficiency of the entire system by a small percentage. So it's not just whereas these reactor cells, they only boost up the one next to it. The reason why I have this 400% efficiency is because we have them all touching each other. They're all touching each other, and like this. If I were to make like a three-dimensional cube out of this thing, it would be even more efficient, but it would definitely be way more unstable as far as production. If I were to make something like this, like that, and then throw another level in there, that's way more efficient. It might not be that efficient because of the size of this thing, but let's just look at this. Oops. Okay. I need to find a better way to get to this base here. See, our efficiency went up a little bit. And if I were to do that for all of those, it would go up quite a bit. Our heat does go up a lot too. So we have to keep that in mind. And with an HEA, which is an americanium fuel cell, one of these has a base of 1075 RF per tick, we're going to have the problem of a large amount of heat being produced with this. And of course, we don't have a lot of coolers in there. So in order to make this more efficient, I mean, it's all a kind of a mini game in itself to make this thing as efficient as possible with all the proper cooling. And this is not the most efficient cooling method at all. There are better ones you can put in here. Like for instance, we can put helium in here, which it must, sorry, not the helium ones, the okay, so it's cryothium. So we can put cryothium coolers in here, which has to touch 2 reactor cells and gives us 140 heat per tick loss. So we can sandwich some cryothium coolers in here, then cover it up with redstone coolers, and we get a little more of a benefit from that. It's always a trade-off, efficiency versus cooling. Really, the main benefit of having this maxed out one is the amount of, I guess, space you get in the heating. So you can store a lot more heat overall. And you also can store a lot more power. Like the maximum power this thing could store is, how many zeros is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 1 billion RF. Store out 1 billion RF. And okay, so it's still cooling down. Turn it back on. And so we pretty much instantaneously, created 67 million RF, which is not bad. Not a bad 2-second burst of power before it hits the maximum heating. So what I'm going to do probably now is start filling this thing up with even more coolers. Our efficiency isn't the best, but it's not the worst either. And the thing about efficiency is it's going to give us a higher total RF out of our fuels. The one downside to these big reactors is there's going to be a lot of empty space inside of this thing, because there's only so many things you could put on these walls. Only water coolers will be, and diamond coolers. The only ones you can actually put in here that don't have to interact with anything else. Like the lapis coolers need to touch reactor cells. Every other cooler has to have a connection point to either a reactor cell or a graphite block. And the more of those you add into it, the more heat is being produced. So you kind of get to this point where you're not losing heat even though you're adding more coolers. You're actually causing more heat. The only thing that doesn't have to require that is the water coolers. They only need to touch a reactor casing. And then the diamond coolers just need to touch 4 water coolers. So these are independent of cells, and a diamond cooler plus 4 water coolers is not a lot of cooling. I mean, diamond coolers aren't bad, but it requires a lot of water coolers to get them to work, essentially. And of course, we don't have a ton of diamonds. I mean, we have enough diamonds. I should probably add diamonds to my list of things that's getting flagged. One other thing I wanted to mention about the ores that you get with NuclearCraft. There's currently in the version I'm on, which is still 1.3, due to some problems I had with going to 1.4, and with this version, you cannot get the ores out of the environmental tech miners. So these will not produce NuclearCraft ores. And so that's a problem, because you have no sustainable way other than mining up large chunks of the world, which is pretty manual. There's no really way to actually get these to produce the ore that you need to maintain a steady amount of thorium and uranium for the reactor up there. So what I've done is actually fired up the quantum quarry, which actually does produce the ores. And so I have it's mining in extreme hills right now biome, which I don't think that matters as much. The one thing I did though was put a filter in. I'm only getting the NuclearCraft ores and the yellowite, and also uranium from NuclearCraft 2. And I picked tin as well because that's what I use to make the fuel rods, and of course diamonds and coal. I probably should flag uranium. I'm sorry, emeralds as well. I have uranium already. And there may be some other NuclearCraft ores that I might have missed. But for the most part, I got the NuclearCraft ores. Probably redstone I get. No, I can actually make redstone by growing it from plants. So it's not that much of a requirement for this. So yeah, so I do get the ores. And with that, I do have a steady flow of thorium coming in, and also uranium. So I can process it and then create the fuel cells and then drop it into the correct chest. And so I can have an ongoing steady flow of power instead of having to mine up multiple resources. And this is so far the only one I know that actually will produce the NuclearCraft ores. Even the laser miner from Industrial Foregoing in this mod pack and in this version of the mod pack does not produce the ores. If I were to just look up laser drill, you could see the different ores that are produced from this, and all the thermal foundation, and of course the NuclearCraft 2 one is being produced, and yellowite is being produced here, but none of the NuclearCraft ones are produced from this. So with that, what I would just recommend using this quantum quarry, which does eat up a lot of power. It's a pretty steady amount of power that it does consume. So that's why I have a laser connected directly to the draconic evolution system up there. And then these I just use for other ores at this point in time, especially the environmental tech specific crystals that you get out of it. I did decommission the fission reactors that I had up there, the two small ones, to combine them into this one. So this is pretty much covered to the point where I can't cover any more of the cells in here. And there is the cryothium coolers, which are connected to two of these. Yes, two of them. And I have the redstone connected to that one. And so in here you can make these patterns, which this one's not active and that one's not active. But these are active. These four here are active because they're touching four sides of the diamond block, are actually touching the water coolers. And so I just need to make some more water coolers. And of course, like I mentioned before, the hold up with that is the tough alloy, which I'm working on that process of creating. And then I can actually fill up a couple of sides to make it a little more cooled and more efficient with the reactor cells inside. And maybe add a few of the graphite blocks inside of it to bring up the total overall efficiency of this build. So that is the goal for this. And I think I have, yeah, so it's just a long span of reactor cells that are in here. And of course I have my gold coolers here, which must touch a water cooler and a redstone cooler. And when I do update, which I probably will after this episode, to 1.6, which has been out for about a month now, I believe, but about a month. I'm going to test it out, and I do add a few new coolers to the NuclearCraft arsenal. So I will have access to some even more efficient cooling, and I think they've updated the actual reactor coolers, the active coolers, which I can pump in liquids into this and get out a more benefit, I guess, for them, especially for the redstone like coolers. You can make a liquid redstone, and you can pretty much replace these redstone coolers with liquid redstone, and you get a 250% increase. So it's like that's 160. So it's going to be 200 heat per tick loss per redstone cooler or active cooler on it. So that's actually pretty nice. That's a lot of cooling. That's more than double the amount of cooling in here, since most of these are redstone. I think that'll be pretty nice to have. So I'll work on that once I update. And I'm going to keep continuously feeding this thing thorium for now. And the thorium does a pretty good job at not producing a lot of heat, which is nice. But it does not last very long with the amount of cells we have in here. So that is it for this episode. I thank you for watching, and I appreciate it. And I hope you learned something new. So thanks again, and bye.